my goodness! Holy sh!
Well, hello today, folks. Seems like since I got back from the swap meet a couple weeks ago and the trip to pick up the Comet here, I haven't really got much done. You guys know how it is. Life gets in the way of you doing the things you really want to do. I have gotten a little bit of work done on the off-road mower, but not enough to make a video. So I've had this video back about a year ago when I was thinking about starting doing some YouTube stuff. I went ahead and took some video of when I put these big Michelins on my loader. And I kind of just had that in the wings ready for a day when I didn't have anything else to post up. And this is that day. And it's a kind of a bonus for a couple people, because in the comments I've been getting on some of my videos, I've had a couple people asking to know a little bit more about the loader and what I've done with it. And so there you go. And as a bonus, because this is the real bonus, because this thing was made a year ago, roughly, it has appearances by Steve in it. So without further ado, let's roll. See, today we're gonna do a little tire and wheel work on the loader. Check out that meaty ass military Michelins. Got 3 of them on there, got 1 left to do. We'd walk through how I did it. The old tires, this was the best of the 4. The other 3 were pretty much bald, so it was needing these tires pretty bad. Okay, before you start welding or grinding on any rims that have tires mounted on them, you really should pull the valve stems. Let the air pressure out. Keeps bad things from happening. So I bought these about a month ago, and I've been putting one on every weekend. The very first one I did, I found I wanted to. They came with the rims on them already, obviously. I wanted to keep the valve stem facing outwards and the lock ring in towards the machine. And with a little work with a tape measure, I found that to keep the back spacing the way I wanted it, I could get this right here, this measurement, right here where this hole is in the wheel. So what I've been doing is cutting along here, getting this whole center out. I take the old wheel, dismount it, cut out this flat plate, the center for what I need, and then re-weld it right in here. The beauty about that thing is I'm not welding to the actual rim and exposing quite so much heat to the inner tube that's in there, because I actually end up welding it to this flange that's still riveted to the wheel. So yeah, that helps out a lot with safety of not transferring that heat into the inner tube and causing damage. So the other 3, I started out by just plasma cutting the center out here and then cleaning it up with a grinder. I think this one I'm gonna try using a cutting wheel and cutting it out from the other side, because yeah, you can't access that. But I'm gonna get busy. Stop flapping my gums. Okay, it's looking like it's working pretty good. Shouldn't see why it wouldn't. It's basically, I'm just eliminating the step of cutting it out first with the plasma cutter. Basically what I'm doing is I'm taking the grinder, I'm kind of lining it up, let's see here, right there where the flat spot of that hole is. And I just, instead of trying to take a really big cut out of it, I just gently, basically kind of scribe right across there to the next flat section. And once you've got a nice gentle arc scribe there, that kind of gives you a guide where you can, where you can actually put more pressure in it and do some real cutting. I don't have a way to hold this camera in place to show you what I'm doing, and it's kind of tedious anyway, so why bother? You get the idea. Okay, so I got 5 of them cut, got 1 left. What I'm finding here, doing it this way, there's pros and cons to the size of your cutting wheel, and obviously that changes as the wheel wears down. I'm finding that the larger disc is easier. You can kind of get in there and see what you're doing when you're making your first initial scribe. I'm sorry, I'm just suck with this camera or phone. But as you start getting deeper into the cut, the size of the larger wheel starts to bind up because you're cutting in a curve. Now, as the wheel gets smaller, it's not so bad, but also as the wheel gets smaller, the lock ring that holds your disc on, right there, that starts hitting these rivets. So I guess, yeah, the bigger wheel's better to a point. Yeah, once you start getting in deeper, it starts causing some problems, but it's just a matter of finesse, keeping at it. I mean, anybody who's used these cutting wheels for projects a lot kind of gets you start getting a feel for what you can and can't get away with. Steve! How you doing, buddy? You little scallywag. There she be, she's out. Not too bad. Got all 4 centers here. I got a couple of guys I wheel with. They run rigs with Rockwell 2.5 ton axles in them. I put the word out, asked if they want them. One guy said he was. I guess he's got a set of, or he's trying to get a set of Humvee wheels and he needs some centers to put in them. So at least they're not going to waste. Now what I'm going to do, with the center out, I'll take the cutting wheel off, put a regular grinding wheel on, and I don't know how well that's showing, but what I'm going to do is grind what's left of this down. I'm going to grind it flat with this flange here. And then once that's all flattened all the way around, I'll flip the rim over and just kind of give it a couple of quick passes back here and flatten it out a little bit. Alright, I got that flange ground down pretty well 90 degrees. Doesn't have to be terribly precise. This is only a loader, it's not anything going down the road. Got the wheel flipped over. This is the back side. What I'm going to do next, take my grinder, and you can see there's kind of a sharp edge there from grinding. I'll take the wheel and just go all around here. Yeah. And just kind of flatten that sharp edge out. Then the wheel will be ready to start getting a center in it. As you can see, I bought these wheels this way. It looks like somebody took 2 sets of wheels here and made a wider wheel. Right there you can see the welds where somebody had done that. That was a real bonus for this loader. This thing needed tires real bad, and hell, these tires, 53-inch Michelins, they came with the rims too, so that all I had to do is drive up, pay, and get them. I didn't have them shipped or mess around finding rims here and tires there. It's just have to put centers in them. Okay, I got the backside cleaned up there a little bit. As you can see, that is what the flat plate center coming out of the originals is going to sit up against. And it will be welded on the other side here, right there. So let's get that wheel off and get busy with that. I might run out of daylight before I get this done today. I have to show you the difference between these tires, the new ones and the originals, just the width right there. Pretty obvious height. Looks like these wheels are some sort of special Gravedigger edition by the color. Hello, kitty. Okay, so showing you some measurements here. I can do this one-handed. Oh, you might just have to take my word for it. Anyway, 18.5 across on that flange, which also ironically enough is the measurement across here for the largest diameter thing that will fit within this bulge on the wheel for the split ring. Now then, what I've done for this large hole measures 11.5 inches. What I need is 18.5, so obviously I add, taking a measurement from here to right there, you can see the mark I've made, 3.5 inches. I've done that around at each mark using a straight edge running, you know, straight across from wheel to try to keep it as true as I can. Obviously this thing doesn't have to be true. That loader moves extremely slow. A crippled turtle could outrun it. So things don't have to be straight and true on this because it's not going down the road. So anyway, I found that this wheel is pretty much close to the diameter I need. So if I can set this wheel in here and line it up pretty well with all these marks that I've made around here, and then take my Sharpie and mark a circle. And I thought about trying to find a way to make a circle cut. I've already got a circle cutter, but I would have had to put some sort of a temporary center in here to each wheel to do that. And I just kind of thought about it and dug around and found this wheel and come up with this system, and it works pretty good. Normally, I don't like cutting things freehand with the plasma cutter, but there's enough meat there that I can kind of steady my hands in places and do a pretty good job of it on this one. But I'll get the wheel in place and then show you how that goes. Okay, so what I've done is I set that wheel in there, and this probably isn't going to pick it up, but I kind of bumped it to where I can just see each of those lines that I made poking out the edge of the wheel. I figure it's centered about as good as it's going to get. Like I said, looking through this camera phone, I don't see those marks showing up, so I doubt you're going to see them, but they're there. That's as good as it's going to get. What I'll do from here is I'll take my Sharpie, mark it around there, then I'll have my reference line to go by. Okay, there's my line I'm going to cut by hand. Actually, I found with the other three wheels, if I cut just, let's see here, if I cut maybe not on the line, but just inside it or just on the inside edge, that seems to be working out really good. Cutting on the line makes me, I have to grind some off to get it to fit in that wheel, past that lock ring lump. So yeah, the past two I've cut on the inside and it worked out pretty good. I'm going to get the plasma cutter set up and get going. Oh, another thing, I've already pulled the valve stem out, even though I don't, the heat I'm putting in it is kind of in the center. I don't think it would really have that big effect, but better safe than sorry. And these old combine wheels are great to keep around as work stands. Hey, what's up, pussycat? Yeah, you like that, don't you? Yeah. So there's my center. I already tried it in the wheel. Fits in there. But what I found out when I did the other rear, yeah, that big old bulge for that lock ring would not clear my brake drum. So I had to remove the brake drum. And also it would not clear this flange on the backing plate. So I had to plasma off all that ring. So I'm going to have to do that with this one too. Oddly enough, even though it doesn't clear the brakes on the rear axle, plenty of room on the front. I don't know what that's all about, but I'll get that cut off while I got some daylight. Yeah, and even though you might be wondering, there's the side I've already done, might be wondering what I'm doing taking the brakes off of this. back when I put this thing together, I put a driveline brake on it. So yeah, I'm not even using those brakes, so no big deal. Give this thing a look over in case anybody's interested. This is an old loader I bought from a local scrapper. When I bought it, supposedly the engine had been rebuilt, but it had sat for like 7 or 8 years. Nothing had been hooked up yet. It had been covered with a tarp, but yeah, I got it home. I decided, hell, even if nothing, there were no, there had to have been bugs and whatever got in those hoses and whatnot. And the engine was free, and it did look rebuilt, new gaskets and everything. But I decided, even if the hydraulics weren't full of crap, and even if the engine and the transaxle and everything worked, at some point it was going to need parts. And I have no idea how old this thing is. I'm going to guess early mid 60s. I have no basis for that other than just its general condition. So anyway, when I got it home, I pulled all the drivetrain out other than the axles. I put in a 302 from I believe it was like a 74 Bronco. It's driving a pump off the front crank that does the hydraulics and the steering. Electric fan off of I think that's off of Lincoln. Runs on propane. Yeah, I know I need to get an air filter on it. There's the tank there. Backing it up, I got a C6 out of I don't know, like a 1982 Bronco. And that, kind of hard to see, that I adapted that to a Spicer reverser box that I'd found on eBay at the time. And the guy said he had 2 of them. Boy, I sure wish I'd have got both of them, because another one would have been handy for some of my projects and toys. But that reverser box feeds into an NP200 from an old, I think a Jeep military truck. And then from there, yeah, you saw the front brake. It's actually on the output that's not used. And the reason I went with the NP200 is because the front and the rear outputs are both in line. So yeah, you clock that straight down, and voila, there's the rear axle. There's the front. Had to make my own drive shafts, whatnot, to hook it all together, but it works pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. I don't know how I ever got along without it. Alright, so what I've done now, I got the tire and wheel tipped up against the door. I've left myself enough space that I can get in on the side I want to weld. And I've got the center set in there. I've got it positioned where it's going to meet the flange. Got a piece of metal in there holding it in place. Like I said, I'm going to get in here on this side with the welder and tack weld it. Put the heavy tack weld in about 3 spots, spin it around, and weld the whole thing. Hey, look who's coming to see us. It's Steve. Come here, Steve, you little rascal, you. Steve, the Stavinator. So there it is. I got 3 tack welds on it, spun around. I'm going to start welding in. Valve stem core is still out. I'm just going to weld 1.5 inches and just jump here and there all over and try not to put too much heat in one spot, to mostly just not to soak enough heat through to damage that inner tube. Seems to have worked with the other 3. Now obviously the techniques I've done with this wheel are not terribly precise, and it doesn't matter for this loader. I mean, I would even consider doing this for a off-roading only rig. I think you're gonna want to run down the road. Yeah, you might want to find more precise ways to do this, but for what I'm doing, this is just fine. All right, she's all welded up. Had a visitor here. It's getting dark now. I had a visitor because I'm just that popular. Got the brakes off, everything out of the way. See if I can get it on there. Maybe I'll film it in case something comical happens trying to get it all lined up. we go.